Hello nerds and nerdettes, welcome back to the channel where once again we have a new review for you guys. We are entering into the month of June, which means a top 10 most anticipated releases of the month. June has a decent amount of releases that I am extremely excited for, but before we jump into any of the listings, I do want to remind you guys that if you do want to pre-order any of these books that I'm about to talk about, to try and use the channel sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Use that discount code STAYNERDY for $2 off your order. They have amazing shipping and handling. They take care of your books, and also you using that code will help support the channel, which of course I am extremely thankful for. But without further delays, let's get into the videos. A quick reminder that this is only a top 10, not everything that is coming out this month, and it's mainly to kind of discuss and talk about, as well as focus on some books that I feel like need some attention, or maybe those of you that are subscribed to the channel that have a similar taste in comic books or manga, whatever it may be, as me, give you some titles to also anticipate and look forward to as well. So without further ado, let's jump into the list itself, of course, starting with number 10. So at number 10, we have the Scumbag, the hardcover, or technically the library edition. Bear with me, I obviously go off the cuff most times, but with dates and page counts, I do need a little help here. So the Scumbag is a Remender book. It is a Remender title, which means we are going to be getting that oversized format similar to the Deadly Class or the Fear Agent. Some people call it Remender style trim, but also most people just call it a library edition. I actually have not read the Scumbag, which is probably at it, or why it's at my number 10 spot, but I love Rick Remender titles. I especially love the treatment that his content gets in those library editions as well. From what I hear, it's kind of following a not so great person that is put in a position to save the world, which is kind of an interesting concept that I definitely feel like I would enjoy. But even so, it's a Rick Remender title, so 9 times out of 10, I'll be checking it out. We do have a release date of June 28th. Also, a price tag or a cover price of $49.99, and it is 424 pages. It does collect the entire series. You're going to have art by Luis LaRosa as well on the book, and honestly, for the size of the book, the trim, and a complete series for 50 bucks, not too bad, especially when omnibuses are in the 120, 150 range. So definitely awesome, but that does wrap up number 10, so we'll go ahead and jump to number 9. Which number 9 is going to be Superman Camelot Falls, the hardcover. I believe it is being solicited as a deluxe edition, which is awesome, super exciting. So it does have a release date of June 14th, a cover price of $39.99, and a page count of 256 pages. You have Kurt Busiek, also Carlos Pacheco on art through the book, so very exciting to have it in that larger deluxe edition format, especially with Pacheco art. It mainly follows Superman taking on the Intergang, which is the villain or the villainous group that was also kind of introduced during Black Adam as well. So very exciting there. It is a very well-known Superman title, or a Superman storyline rather. I am just a fan of Superman kind of in general. He's my favorite DC hero, Captain America being my favorite Marvel hero. So 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be collecting anything really Superman. The only reason that you're probably thinking you don't have the Man of Steel hardcovers is I'm hoping for an omnibus one day, but it really hurts me not to pick those up. But a lot of these deluxe edition storylines or hardcovers of a portion of a run, whatever it may be, definitely find their way into my library, especially if it's around the character that I love so much, like Superman. It's a very important story, though. It really follows a lot of Superman's personal struggles as well with Clark, kind of bringing up Lana Lang, as well as some issues with Lois Lane. Obviously, I'm not diving deep into the story. We can wait to do that for the review, but definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a Superman fan. But that does wrap up number 9, so we will jump to number 8. which coming in at number 8 is going to be Wolverine Snikt, which is actually a manga, believe it or not. We do have a release date of June 14th, a page count of 136 pages, and a price tag of $20, $19.99. This manga has been long out of print. A lot of superhero or East meets West style of mangas honestly don't get printed often. This is finally being reprinted. You have the artwork and the storytelling by Nihei, which is the mangaka that is responsible for Blame, as well as Knights of Sidonia, also Abara. One of those may ring a bell there, but very, very forward with art style, which I think is going to lend beautifully to Wolverine. I have not read this because, like I said, it's been out of print for so long, and I've only recently gotten into manga during the later half of my life, so really reading a lot of those more popular titles digitally, not necessarily these one-offs like Wolverine Snikt, but definitely a awesome title. I love anything that incorporates my two favorite things, which are superheroes and manga, or superheroes anime, whatever it may be, that East meets West kind of amalgamation, if you will. Nihei is such an amazing artist. If you have not checked out anything he's done, do yourself a favor, especially Blam or Blame, whatever you want to call it, and then Knights of Sidonia in those large paperback. Beautiful for the art. He really flourishes when doing architecture as well, so super awesome that's getting reprinted, and a lot of us that weren't able to get it can get our hands on it as well. But that does wrap up number 8, so we'll head to number 7. Coming in at number 7 is going to be the Dark Crisis hardcover, the event hardcover, Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. I typically just like to call it Dark Crisis. It is being collected in hardcover. It is $39.99, has a release date of June 28th, so that later half of June, unfortunately, and has a page count of 224 pages. You have Joshua Williamson on the writing duties on this book. Such an amazing event. It had a little bit of struggle there in the early half for me personally, but it definitely wrapped up during the end half of the event. You do have the technically sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is pretty exciting, even though it's very loosely kind of connected. I mean, all the crises are really kind of loosely connected and could be a sequel within itself, but this technically is a direct sequel to Crisis on Infinite Earths, hence why it's Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. I feel like I'm probably going to say Infinite Earths a million times here. The one kind of issue pertaining to this event is this only really has the main event portion, and this book has a lot of tie-ins that kind of explain the story a little bit more, especially pertaining to the Justice League, which if you've read it, you probably know what I'm referencing kind of there. And those tie-ins can add quite a bit of detail to why characters are showing up at certain points. So that's the one little drawback here. You do have to dive a little bit deeper into some of the tie-ins, but it is what it is. That's how, you know, the comic book world kind of sells books, and I'm for it as long as books are selling. But super exciting that that is finally coming out, and a lot of us that haven't read it and can get it into the collection kind of see that end of the modern era of DC and then into the new DCU kind of era of DC that we are now kind of just entering into now, in the comic books at least. Super exciting because of that, especially since a lot of people that are collecting singles are now collecting that dawn of the DCU issues that are now coming out. So this is where a lot of those issues were birthed out of and how we got to that point. So it's super exciting that you can now get this hardcover and get that entire story. But that does wrap up number 7, so we will head to number 6. Number 6 is going to be Deadly Class Book 4. This is going to be finishing the series in those Remender Library Edition hardcovers. We do have a price point or a cover price of $49.99, a page count of 392 pages, and a release date of July 4th. You have obviously Rick Remender on writing. Once again, 9 times out of 10, anything Rick Remender I'm probably going to pick up, not just because I really enjoy his writing, but also just the bang for your buck on these books. That was a tongue twister. You do have Wes Craig on art duties as well. He did all the art through Deadly Class, so you're getting more of that kind of art that you were used to from issue 1, which is always awesome to see a creative team kind of see a title out and finish. You always like to see that. But this does finish the series, as I touched on, which is super exciting because that's another Remender title, one of the longer Rick Remender titles as well, being finished in hardcover. So that's awesome. I do have books 1 through 3, so number 4 is definitely a necessity. I do think it maybe falls off a little towards the end, but I don't think that's necessarily specific to any one Rick Remender book. I do feel like sometimes he has a little trouble ending books, but still, if you're going to collect Deadly Class, you might as well collect it to the end. But that does wrap up number 6, which is yet another super exciting title. But now we will enter into our top 5 with number 5, which is going to be Atomika, God is Red, the hardcover. This has a release date of June 7th, and I don't have a price tag. I look for it everywhere, and I do not have a page count. I have not read this title at all, but I've heard nothing but good things pertaining to its story and art. You have art by Sal Abenanti, probably butchering that, and also writing by Andrew Daub. Super amazing story. I've heard so many people hoot and holler about just how awesome this book is. Omar, during his releases of June as well, saying how amazing his experience was. From what I've heard, it's almost like a Russian take on Watchmen, introducing a Russian style of Dr. Manhattan, or that's how it's been sold to me at least. Haven't opened the book, so can't really tell you, but it's been on my want to read list for a very long time. But the hardcover previously released was through a Kickstarter, so obviously I was not able to receive that hardcover, but this is a official release in hardcover format. Super exciting. It's one that a lot of people, myself included, have been waiting for, since only those that contributed were really able to get that Kickstarter hardcover. It's not a massive book. I don't know the exact page count, as I said, but it doesn't seem to be a super massive book or long-running title, which is also good. But definitely excited. I've heard nothing but good things, and I cannot wait to actually read it and give my thoughts of the title in general. But that does wrap up number 5, so we'll head to number 4. And coming in at number 4 is going to be the Spider-Man Beyond Omnibus. This is a new omnibus that we have not seen before. This is collecting a more modern run on the character of Spider-Man by Zeb Wells. We do have a cover price of $100, a page count of 672 pages, and also a release date of June 7th, so earlier in that month. It is written by Zeb Wells, who has a little bit of heat on him currently because of what his writing style, or what he's doing during his Spider-Man run currently. But I very much enjoyed the Spider-Man Beyond stuff. You have the reintroduction of Ben Reilly, as well as a introduction of a new, I guess, villainous type corporation, which is Beyond Corp, hence where you get that Beyond from. A lot of artists on here, or not a lot, but some artists spread throughout, but the main one being Sarah Pacelli. But I very much enjoyed this story. Some points were a little boring here and there. It's not my number 1 most wanted Spider-Man Omni or my favorite run on Spider-Man, but it does cover my second favorite Spider-Man, Ben Reilly. That may be a hot take. And it also introduces a new kind of villainous corporation as well. So it is a little bit noteworthy, and it's a first time printing of an omnibus, so it's noteworthy because of that alone. But super excited to actually finally be getting a lot of these modern takes in omnibuses. We got another one announced from Omar today at the point of recording this video. So a lot of those modern books being announced, being printed, and we're actually getting them in hand, which is super awesome. But that does wrap up number 4, so we will jump to number 3. So we are officially in my top 3 most anticipated releases. Number 3 is going to be, number 3 is going to be Nightwing Volume 3. It's technically Volume 3 Battle for Bludhaven, but we'll just call it Volume 3. We have a release date of June 28th, later half of June once again, a price tag of $24. At least that's the one I found, seems a little steep. And then also we have a page count of 176 pages. This is collecting the Tom Taylor run on Nightwing, which is such an amazing run on the character. He very much knows what he's doing with the character of Nightwing. This is a lot of the blockbuster stuff in Bludhaven, as well as some of the romantic stuff that gets explored as well. A lot of stuff that covers the relationship between Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon as well. Such an amazing title. If you are not reading it, I highly recommend you to check it out. We do have technically volumes 1 and 2, even though there is that Fear State volume, which is technically volume 2. This is just continuing that in hardcover. Super pumped for that. Yet another more recent and modern run in comics being collected, which also a huge fan of that. Tom Taylor, very hot right now in comics. He typically gets a lot of buzz when it comes to his Elseworld titles, but he's been given the reins on a couple actual in continuity characters as well. And Nightwing, he is absolutely knocking it out of the park on probably one of the best books that DC is putting out, along with a couple others, which I've probably touched on before. But super happy that we're getting this in hardcover. I'm sure once it finishes, we're going to get an omnibus and I'm going to be kicking myself. But until then, it is what it is. I'm going to collect it in whatever format is available at this time. But that does wrap up number 3, so we'll jump to number 2. Which number 2 is going to be the X23 Omnibus, finally being released. This has a release date of June 28th, a page count of 928 pages, and also a price tag of $125. This is being solicited as a Volume 1, which is, of course, super exciting that we are getting a Volume 1, potentially a Volume 2. Hopefully, everything collected in Omnibus that leads us up to the new Wolverine Omnibus, unless they plan on double dipping in a way, which they may do that as well. But this does follow the character of X23, who was introduced during the early 2000s in comics. Her first appearance or first introduction was in a cartoon very similar to the character of Harley Quinn, which was X-Men Evolution, which some of you may have watched like I did. But this is early 2000s stuff, which is kind of my era in comics, so of course I had to pick this up. I remember very vividly my sister collecting Supergirl, X23, and Spider-Girl very vividly, so these were a lot of comics that I was reading as well because she was getting. She's a very interesting character, a little bit of a dark storyline during her kind of early years of introduction, but still, I enjoy dark stories, and if you do, then you'll probably enjoy this introduction as well. You have Erica Scholes, Edgar Salazar, 2 names that you don't really see in comics all that much these days, I feel like. But super pumped to get this. This is also a new omnibus that is being printed for the first time. This is one that a lot of people wanted for a very long time, and we are finally getting it, and that's exactly why it's in the number 2 spot, because I could not think of anything that I kind of wanted more, or in my maybe top 10 most wanted omnibuses than obviously X23. But we will wrap up with number 2 and jump to my most anticipated title that is being released this month, which will be coming in at number 1, which is going to be the new X-Men Omnibus being reprinted once again We have a release date of June 28th. As I said, this is a reprint once again. A page count of 1,120 pages and a price tag of $125. Pretty decently sized book with that over 1,000 page count there. You have Grant Morrison on writing duties, and as far as art goes, Frank Quitely. I know Frank Quitely is a little divisive when it comes to his art style, but as I've touched on during my Authority Omnibus, I happen to be a huge fan. I think he's very reminiscent of Ed McGuinness. I think that kind of style, cartoony if you will call it, I very much resonate with, and his art through this, including the puppy jackets, I very much enjoy. A lot of very important storylines being kind of explored here, some involving Charles Xavier and his family tree, the introduction of Zorn and kind of what that meant for X-Men during this era. Obviously, staying away from spoilers there. You also have a costumeless X-Men, which is very exciting because this is a kind of interesting era in the X-Men kind of mythos. This is also where a lot of the mutations or secondary mutations of mutants kind of got introduced as well, which is something that Morrison introduced. Such an amazing story. This is probably my favorite run on X-Men, if not my second favorite, only behind Astonishing X-Men. Those two can probably go hand in hand, but we're finally getting a reprint. This is another book that has been a whale for quite a while now, and it's getting reprinted, so I don't have to pay aftermarket prices, which is awesome. But that is exactly why it's number one, and that does wrap up my list, so we'll close out the video. So thank you so much for watching. I truly, truly appreciate it. I hope some of these titles are books that you are looking forward to. But as always, which I always ask of you guys, if I'm skipping out on something or you feel something should be in my top 10, comment down below. I would love to hear from you guys. As I've said a million times, I'm only one nerd, so I can only really focus and purchase and pick up and read so many things, but I would love to know what you guys feel I should be focusing on or picking up on instead. But other than that, as always, I truly appreciate you guys watching, and if you are not a part of the community, the Illuminerdi, hit that subscribe button to join today. It is a very awesome place, and we are also trying to hit our next milestone of 1K subscribers, so if you could do me a favor and hit that thumbs up icon, that way we can get placed in the algorithm a little bit more, that way we can eventually hit that milestone. Also, if you enjoyed today's video, or you want to be notified when I release any of my reviews for maybe these books that I talked about, hit that bell icon, that way you can get notified anytime I put out content. But thank you again for watching. I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys, and of course, stay nerdy.